Another Tose Bandai joint? They're the real dynamic duo of making terrible Famicom games. But hang on a second. Gegege no Kitaro is actually kind of decent. In fact, I'd say Gegege no Kitaro is the only decent Bandai game until 1991. Gegege no Kitaro started out as a comic in the 60s, and it's about a monster boy who rose from the grave and then goes on to help humanity against the bad spirits. The Gegege in the title is kind of an evil chuckle, and it's Kitaro's trademark. It's already going to be hard enough to avoid turning this into a Kitaro lore video, so I'll leave it there. The full title of the game is Gegege no Kitaro Yokai Daimakai, or Yokai's Great Demon World, Yokai's Great Hell, something along those lines. The plot is that an evil yokai has taken over the world and turned it into hell. It's up to Kitaro to fight his way through a series of guardians and restore peace. What that means is that in every land, there are 3 stages and a boss. Don't worry too much about the overworld map and how sometimes things are blocked and sometimes you can just walk past everything. It actually doesn't matter. Because Kitaro can't get to the boss until he finds a crystal ball. The crystal ball is hidden on one of the 3 stages. And besides the crystal ball, you'll also want to collect these flutes that will let you summon help in the battle, as well as weapons that will help you against the boss. So you're probably going to visit 2, maybe even all 3 stages anyways. The stages can be thought of as mini-games. There's 4 varieties of them, and these are randomly chosen. On stages where you have this skull in your status bar, you have to kill that many other yokai. If you see this spirit, then you have to collect that many spirits before the stage ends. On these stages, you have to lead the flame spirit around and light all the candles. Finally, there are these shooting stages where you have to defeat a certain number of enemies. When you're 1 away from completing the stage, the flute drops and you can collect it then. And when you've fulfilled the requirements, then these doors open and you can exit the stage through those. Kitaro is one of those characters who always seems to have a new ability that he pulls out when he's in trouble, and the game replicates this by giving him a huge variety of powers. The default one is to shoot out his needle-like hair, and honestly that's good enough for almost everything. The easy ones to understand are his finger guns and the flame shots. Kitaro can shoot his fingers off at people, and they go straight through them and keep going. The flame shot moves in a swirl pattern. Kitaro's scarf and sandals can get launched, but they're also remote controlled, so as you're moving Kitaro around, you're also steering those. You're invincible for a few seconds after you fire them, and the sandals go away if they run into something. The scarf keeps going through enemies, but it goes away if it goes off the screen. Sometimes when you finish a stage, the battle isn't over yet. You could go into one of these vertically scrolling areas, where you have to climb up and shoot a giant in the face. These guys inevitably have a big shot that they fire at you as you approach the top, so watch out for that. The bosses all have life bars that you have to whittle away by firing at them. The first one isn't too tough, just jump over his shots and hit him. The second one is surrounded by this whirling sphere, and I'd recommend using the finger gun on it, though I never managed to beat the second boss. And that's the thing. Gegege no Kitaro is remembered for being especially difficult. There are 16 stages, you start out with 3 lives, any hit kills you, and the enemies have a bad tendency to spawn in ways that get you. You can get extra lives, but they don't come normally. Sometimes you'll see these eyeballs come up. You have to pick out the smooth one, which is Kitaro's father, and if you collect that, then you get an extra life. One of the interesting things about Gegege no Kitaro is how much of the cartoon and comic get carried over to the game. All of the sprites do a pretty good job of representing the iconic characters, and everybody is taken from a story. So for anyone playing this in 1986, they are probably pretty happy to see their favorite characters show up. The boss battles are a good example of this. The number of flutes determines which helpers are available to you, and you can summon them by backing up to the far corner and pressing down. This wall guy will push the enemy away. This guy clings to the boss and gets in their way. And the final one disables the boss's attacks. And I'm still not done yet because they packed even more into this game. Sometimes you'll see figures appear in the stages. They can be collected for extra points. Except this one, which gives you extra points, as well as making you go fast. Now for a few gameplay tips. On the spirit stages, be careful you don't shoot the spirits. If you kill them, you can't collect them. Each stage is only about 3 screens across, and they loop forever, so instead of running people down, just go the other way. Similarly, enemies spawn forever, so don't bother running around too much on the stages where you have to hunt down enemies. They'll come to you. If you miss the crystal ball, don't worry, it'll come back in a moment. You have to fire an item once after you pick it up, but after that, press select to disable it. Gegege no Kitaro is another case of Bandai changing the graphics of a game to sell it in the US, but in this case, they gave the game a total facelift and changed it to Ninja Kid. So in the end, I kinda liked Gegege no Kitaro. It feels a lot like a basic arcade game, only given a bit of a wrapper to make it a little bit better for home. This was a case where I had to stop myself playing so that I could get this video done.